The flags are out, the scores are coming in, and the season is officially on. This is This Week in Women's College Flag Football. I'm Coach Sean Fenewald. Let's hit the field. Welcome to This Week in Women's College Flag Football, brought to you by Blitz Board Stats. Let's jump right into the play of the week featuring the Huntingdon Hawks in a win over Alabama State.
And going back to run the ball back is Tamiyah Carter. Fielded, and Carter spins out of a couple of tackles. Still going. Actually flips it back and going down the sideline, and she's gone. Touchdown, Huntingdon. What a play. Carter flipped it to Jaquel Tucker, and Tucker ran down the sideline, outside the row. Rowe ran down the sideline. Kylah Rome and returns it for a touchdown, and Huntingdon on the board 6-0.
That was some play as Tamiyah Carter pitched it to Kylah Rome for the touchdown, as Huntingdon rides the early punt return touchdown for a win over the ASU Hornets. Hat tip to our friend Matt Dixon over at collegiateflagfootball.com for make sure we didn't miss out on that play. Make sure that you're subscribed to his weekly newsletter and his email updates, as they truly are the best way to stay up to date with the latest news in college flag football. As we make our way into the middle of the season, a lot of teams are starting to get their first games underway. We heard from our friends over at Penn State Harrisburg, who sent this video in from Von Schottet to capture their first game and first win of the season in the fog over Keystone. Star Nadia King was named Conference Player of the Week, Offensive Player of the Week, and Defensive Player of the Week in the United East after this dominant performance. As we move forward, we're going to be going over the women's collegeflagfootball.com and Blitzboard Stats Top 25. We wanted to take a look at the results from last week. Warner came in on top. Obviously, they've looked virtually unstoppable as the season's moved on. The same could be said about Milligan, though, and they've been playing a difficult schedule. At the time of recording, we had Kansas Wesleyan at 5-0. They've started to slip, though, after we saw them lose to Baker, giving them their first loss of the season. The Wildcats looked dominant on defense in that game. We had this video submitted. Let's take a look now. Thank you to Misty Busch for sending in this video of the impressive pass breakup by Natalie Busch. Speaking of impressive wins this week, Florida Gateway had a great win over Daytona State. The Falcons had yet to lose a game this season, and you couldn't tell. Gateway came in and looked dominant from the beginning. Thanks to our friends over at Jackson's Visuals for sending these photos in. Running down a few of the other teams that are in the top tier, we start with the Ottawa Braves. They may have the best 2 wins thus far this season, with wins over Kaiser and Baker. Then we see the Florida Gators. Until shown otherwise after their NERSA championship, the Florida Gators are looking like the elite club team in Florida. Then we see the Life Running Eagles. They continue to pile up their wins and prove they belong against stout competition. St. Thomas, the Bobcats, are 1 overtime loss away from being a top 5 team. Then we see where Weber's dropped after the loss to St. Francis, Indiana, a better team than their record appears. Then we see Hope International, whose win over St. Thomas is only aging better and better, considering that STU hasn't lost a game since. It's hard to see another team out west is playing any better than Hope International right now. Of course, as soon as I say that, we get to the Nevada State Scorpions, who at 10-0 have been winning in convincing fashion. They would probably contend with the idea that they're the best team playing out west right now, but they don't have a win on the caliber of St. Thomas on their schedule. Saddleback continues to be the JUCO team out west that no one can beat, though they did get all that they could handle from the Golden West Wrestlers this week. With recent close games against Golden West and Cypress, the Bobcats are living on the edge in the OEC, but coming out winners. Continuing our look down the top 25, we come to Florida Atlantic. This is another one of the top club teams in Florida that nobody wants to contend with. Outside of the Gators, the Owls have probably had the best start to the season, although UCF is also looking strong in the club scene down in Florida as well. Next on the list, we see the Wingate Bulldogs and the Thomas Nighthawks. These are both teams that, although barely above 500, have played some of the toughest schedules of any teams in the country so far this year. Outside of the top-tier teams, Wingate and Thomas could beat any team, any given game. Rounding out the top 25, we have Huntingdon at 9-2, Ferrum at 6-2. The Delaware Blue Hens come in at 3-0 after an impressive win over Wagner. Eastern is at 4-0 after being 14-4 last year. Eastern looks good so far this season, even surviving a close overtime win to remain on top of their conference. Lindsey Wilson is looking great to start the season so far, also a team with an explosive offense. And then the Cypress Chargers are our 25 team after getting key wins this season over Ventura and then a recent win over Irvine Valley. While we're on the subject of rankings, friend of the site Brad Hoyseth also operates jcgridiron.com, the authority on junior college football. They'll be releasing their national rankings, the Filthy 20 JUCO rankings of the top junior college flag football teams across the country. Here's their initial top 10. Make sure to check in with them as the season goes along to stay up to date on the best JUCO teams playing flag across the country. Enough with my opinions, though. Let's get back to the videos. Here's a touchdown from Cal Lutheran over Arizona State from our friends The Voice of. Next, we have this rushing touchdown submitted from friend of the site at University of Arizona, Ryan Blaze Brooks. Beginning last week, we took on our show's first sponsor, so we want to give a shout out to our partners over at Blitzboard Stats. Terry Brooks and Janice Scribsley have been supporting the growth and visibility of women's college flag football. Blitzboard Stats is putting together the #1 stats platform in women's college flag, and we thank them for their support. Tonight, we sign off with a reel from the ladies over at Post University. The Eagles are playing their first season, putting up great results in the Northeast, getting their first win in program history at home last week over Roxbury. It's really exciting to see the game starting to grow and take off in excitement in the Northeast. Shout out to Cody and Coach V and everyone over at Playmakers Corner for taking the time to put together a really thoughtful podcast and sending the love our way. Another high five to Matt Dixon over at collegiateflagfootball.com. He puts in a ton of great work over there to keep us up to date and deserves recognition. Also, some folks have been asking if you really want to send over some gear for me to wear while I read the podcast, hit me up in the DMs and I'll get you my address. Otherwise, it's been a fun season, and we'll see you next week for This Week in Women's College Flag Football, brought to you by Blitzboard Stats and womenscollegeflagfootball.com.